recording. Text 13. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 13. Bhagavad Gita,
Mm.
chapter 13, Krishna is clearly trying to tell us that we are different than the body, that we are the spirit soul inside the body. We are the knower of the body. The body is made up of 24 elements. And next to the soul is the super soul. And we
Mm.
are different than the body, and we are also different than the super soul. We are the knower only of our body. Super soul is the knower of all the bodies. Then we heard Krishna saying about knowledge. He says only these items are knowledge. The most important out of which was approaching a spiritual master, engaging in devotional service. By engaging in devotional service, Prabhupada mentions all other qualities will automatically manifest. But, because we may not be chanting very purely, offenselessly. So we may also have to do some work to cultivate these qualities. Especially humility was said one of the most important qualities, humility. Um, yeah. Then let's go on. Text 13. Today's
Okay.
text.
Geyam yattat pravakshami yajgyat gyatvam ashnute anadi matparam brahma na sattan nasad uchyate. Translation. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Purport. The Lord has explained the field of activities and the knower of the field. He has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activities. Now he begins to explain the knowable, first the soul and then the super soul. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the super soul, one can relish the nectar of life. As explained in the second chapter, the living entity is eternal. This is also confirmed here. There is no specific date at which the Jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of the Jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is beginningless. The Vedic literature confirms this. Na jayate mriyate va vipaschit Katha Upanishad 1.2.18. The knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he is full of knowledge. The Supreme Lord, as the Super Soul, is also stated in the Vedic literature, Shvetashvatar Upanishad 6.16, to be Pradhan Kshetragya Patir Guneshaha, the chief knower of the body and the master of the three modes of material nature. In the Smriti, it is said, Das Bhuto Harer Eva Nanya Svav Kadachana. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings. Therefore, the description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in relation to the individual soul. And when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that he is Vigyan Brahma as opposed to Ananda Brahma. Ananda Brahma is the supreme Brahman personality of Godhead.
Okay, what are we learning in this verse? What is Krishna saying?
Krishna is about to explain about the knowable and the knowing which we can taste the eternal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So Krishna, we can see Krishna again and again is trying to, again and again he is explaining, Krishna is explaining that we are separate from the body because our thinking that we are the body is so deep in us that he is again saying, okay, you're not the body is there, that's just field of activities, there's a soul, that's the knower of our own body, and then there is a super soul, the knower of all the bodies.
Mm.
So Brahman, okay, we are Brahman, but we have to understand we are not para Brahman. Because someone may think, oh, well, I'm Brahman, then I'm the origin, I'm the beginningless. I'm sure we are beginningless, we are eternal, but we are not para Brahman. There's a difference.
Mm.
Okay, he is Vigyan Brahma opposed to Ananda Brahma. I don't understand that actually. Vigyan Brahma as opposed to Ananda Brahma. Well, we do know that Ananda lies with the Supreme Lord. Satchid Ananda, we say, right? The Ananda aspect is only when we um, understand God is a person. Satchit aspects lies in the Brahman, eternality and knowledge. But if we actually want to experience Ananda, we have to understand God as a person. Then we will um,
Mm.
experience that the bliss that we are hankering for. Sure, there is
Mm.
Ananda in the Brahman, but it's very, very tiny. It's not it's very limited, as Prahlad Maharaj says, that it is just like water contained in the hoof print of a calf. Whereas the happiness in relation to Krishna is like an unending, never ending ocean of nectar.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. सर्वतः पाणिपादं तत् सर्वतोक्षिशिरोमुखं सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वम् आवृत्य तिष्ठति. Translation. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the supersoul exists, pervading everything. Purpose. As the sun exists, diffusing its unlimited rays, so does the supersoul or supreme personality of Godhead. He exists in his all pervading form, and in him exist all the individual living entities, beginning from the first great teacher, Brahma, down to the small ants. There are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and unlimited living entities. All are existing in and on the supersoul. Therefore, the supersoul is all pervading. The individual soul, however, cannot say that he has his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. That is not possible. If he thinks that under ignorance he is not conscious that his hands and legs are diffused all over, but when he attains to proper knowledge, he will come to that stage. His thinking is contradictory. This means that the individual soul, having become conditioned by material nature, is not supreme. The Supreme is different from the individual soul. The Supreme Lord can extend his hand without limit, the individual soul cannot. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that if anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it. If the Lord is a far distance away, how can he accept things? This is the omnipotence of the Lord. Even though he is situated in his own abode, far, far away from the earth, he can extend his hand to accept what anyone offers. That is his potency. In the Brahma Samhita 5.37, it is stated, Golok eva nivasati akhilatma bhutah. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet, he is all pervading. The individual soul cannot claim that he is all pervading. Therefore, this verse describes the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, not the individual soul.
So, what's the difference here in this verse? What's the difference we can understand of the super soul and the individual soul?
Super soul is all pervading, and individual soul cannot mm, be present everywhere.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. We are individually present. We're just inside our own body. Now, Prabhupada is putting up this argument that one may think, oh, well, you know what? Actually, I'm God also. Actually, I'm also omnipresent. But right now, just because I'm in Maya, that's why I'm not able to experience it. But once, as soon as I come out of Maya, I will know that I am God. So how do you
Mm.
attain? How do you explain that?
Um, we cannot be present everywhere. Mm,
But one may think, okay, right now, because I'm in this condition of atmosphere of Maya, so I have forgotten that I have my hands and legs everywhere, and that's how I'm not conscious of them. But as soon as I get liberated, I come out of this material atmosphere, then I will remember that, oh, I am supreme, I'm everywhere.
Hmm.
So then the way to explain that
I
is
don't know
then
how to
that,
explain that.
yeah,
Hmm.
so then that means one is saying that, okay, right now, that, okay, I'm God, but I've forgotten I'm God because I'm in Maya. But as soon as I get liberated, I'll again remember back I'm God. But then that is going to say that Maya is greater than God.
Hmm.
If one puts on out this argument that actually I'm God, but I've forgotten I'm God because of Maya, that means Maya is able to overcome me. That means Maya is greater than God. But nowhere in Shastra it says Maya is greater than God. So this logic is not accepted at all.
Okay.
Mm, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, because God means one who's supremely powerful. No one is greater than him or equal to him, right? That's God. And nowhere in Shastra it is said that Maya is greater than God, because then Maya will be God. Maya will not be called Maya. Maya will be called God then.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Text 15. सर्वेन्द्रिय गुणाभासं सर्वेन्द्रिय विवर्जितम् असक्तं सर्वभ्रश्चैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तृ च. Translation. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. Purport. The Supreme Lord, although the source of all the senses of the living entities, doesn't have material senses like they have. Actually, the individual souls have spiritual senses, but in conditioned life, they are covered with the material elements, and therefore the sense activities are exhibited through matter. The Supreme Lord's senses are not so covered. His senses are transcendental and are therefore called Nirgun. Gun means the material modes, but his senses are without material covering. It should be understood that his senses are not exactly like ours. Although he is the source of all our sensory activities, he has his transcendental senses, which are uncontaminated. This is very nicely explained in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad 3.19 in the verse Apani Pado Javano Grahita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no hands which are materially contaminated, but he has his hands and accepts whatever sacrifice is offered to him. That is the distinction between the conditioned soul and the supersoul. He has no material eyes, but he has eyes, otherwise, how could he see? He sees everything, past, present, and future. He lives within the heart of the living being, and he knows what we have done in the past, what we are doing now, and what is awaiting us in the future. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. He knows everything, but no one knows him. It is said that the Supreme Lord has no legs like us, but he can travel throughout space because he has spiritual legs. In other words, the Lord is not impersonal. He has his eyes, legs, hands, and everything else. And because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we also have these things. But his hands, legs, eyes, and senses are not contaminated by material nature. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that when the Lord appears, he appears as he is by his internal potency. He is not contaminated by the material energy because he is the Lord of material energy. In the Vedic literature, we find that his whole embodiment is spiritual. He has his eternal form called Satchit Anand Vigraha. He is full of all opulence. He is the proprietor of all the wealth and the owner of all energy. He is the most intelligent and is full of knowledge. These are some of the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the maintainer of all living entities and the witness of all activity. As far as we can understand from Vedic literature, the Supreme Lord is always transcendental. Although we do not see his head, face, hands, or legs, he has them, and when we are elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. Due to materially contaminated senses, we cannot see his form. Therefore, the impersonalists who are still materially affected cannot understand the personality of Godhead.
Hmm. Okay. So, what is in this verse Krishna saying?
Krishna is explaining about uh, super soul and his like and its capabilities.
Uh-huh.
It can travel with spiritual legs, although it has hands, legs, and everything like us. But that's all
Yeah,
spiritualized.
that's right. That's the point. You see, because someone may say, oh, well, if he has a hands, eyes, legs everywhere, spread everywhere, means he's impersonal, he has no form. No, but he has a spiritual form. His senses are all spiritual, not material. You know, we as spirit souls, our original senses are also spiritual. We have spiritual eyes, spiritual ears, nose, but they're just simply covered right now with this material senses. So, but Krishna's is never covered. His senses are always spiritual.
Mm.
So, because someone may say, oh, God has no senses, he has, no form. But if he has no senses, how he's speaking Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, he's a person. That's how he can speak Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is given so much importance till today, although it was spoken first millions of years ago, then again 5,000 years. So it's God speaking. So he's speaking, right? He has a voice, he has a mouth, he's standing there in front of Arjuna. So he has senses, he is a person. Because some people with some kind of misinterpretation may come to the conclusion that, oh, God has, he has no senses, but the correct understanding is he has spiritual senses. Said otherwise, how could he see? Krishna says, offer me with love and affection, water, fruit, flower. So we are offering him wine. He's accepting it, right? We heard in the last verse that his hand can extend very far away. He's sitting in Golok Vrindavan. We are offering him a flower here. He's accepting it. So that is spiritual senses. So he does have senses, not material, but spiritual. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because this is a very important point, because then otherwise in ultimate sense, you know, person may think, oh well, God has no senses, he's not a person. No, he is a person. He has spiritual senses. And the more we hear and chant, the more our senses get purified. And with those purified senses, the more we are able to understand God. Just like when the window is too dirty, cannot see outside, the more we clean the window, the more we will be able to see the scenery outside. So the more we clean our senses, the more we will be able to understand about God and his senses.
Mm,
Okay, let's stop here.
sure.
Did you have any comment, question?
No.
Did you want to add any?
No. Nothing I can think of right now.
Okay. Okay. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare